have at least a sense of what this unit or what sinusoidal functions look like. Okay, first things first. Make sure you listen and have your calculator out. You need to change the following settings. So you gotta press mode if you haven't done so already, and you gotta change. What's up with my? Oh, there. You gotta change from mine is set to degrees, so I have to make sure I change it to radians, or else your graphs are gonna look completely different. So you need to make sure you are set to radians. So press mode, and then go to the fourth line and change that to radians. I did explain a little bit what radians are. It's outside the scope of this class to explain exactly what radians are. It's just a different way to measure without using degrees, like the angle. It's a way to measure an angle without using degrees. Okay. So let's go to page 3 here. I just want to highlight a few things. Of course, change to degrees, change to radians. Sinusoidal functions are periodic functions, meaning they keep repeating themselves. Okay. So make sure you know that word. You're familiar with periodic functions. What is a period? Usually it is the time it takes for a full cycle to complete. Units will always be what's on your x-axis. That is, I added that. It wasn't in the video. But some students get the units wrong. It's whatever is along the x-axis, okay? And it is positive. What is the median? It's a horizontal line halfway between the max and the min. I talked about that. And there's the maximum and the minimum that a sinusoidal function reaches, okay? Because a sinusoidal, if you want to go, obviously, here, I'm just going to use the cover of this booklet. A sinusoidal always looks like that. This is a minimum point, the lowest, and then it goes up and it reaches a max, okay? And then it comes back down, it's a min, okay? So it always hovers between the max and the min. It doesn't deviate from it. So the midline would be halfway through here. Imagine a line that cuts this perfectly in half. Okay, so that is what the midline is. Amplitude is the distance from either the midline to the max or from the midline to the min. So if you haven't written this down, okay, this would be your midline. So on page 3. And then your amplitude is this, right? This is the amplitude. That the distance from the midline to either the max or the min. That is your amplitude. Slow, right? So we call that the amplitude. And this is in general what your equation is. And so this, you have to have this on your study sheet. And I do talk about more than just the equation. I tell you what each component, how it affects the graph. Okay. A here will always affect the amplitude, right? Affects the max and the min for that reason. B affects your period. C affects the horizontal shift of it. And D is the vertical shift. If you watched it, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't watch it, I'm leaving it in your court to figure that out. I think for word problems and such, it's good to know what each of them does. This is where things went, this is where I changed things. So I need you to have, if you're adding this to your study sheet, determine the characteristics. So if you want to know how it behaves from the equation, right? If I give you an equation, you want to be using these ones here. Okay, so the midline is just D, is that value D. So if I give you an equation that looks like this, C and D could be missing, by the way. It could be 0 and then they're not there. You literally just grab that value, boom, and that's your midline. So if this is 5, the midline is going horizontally along 5. Okay. The Y max is just grabbing D and adding A to it. And I'm going to show you how to do that. You grab D, that's the midline, and we add the amplitude to get to the max. For the min, right, the Y min, we go D minus amplitude to get that one. Period is just 2 pi divided by whatever B is, whatever this value is right here. That's how long it takes for this to repeat. And then here's the domain. I need you to write down no word problem next to it, but the domain in general for a sinusoidal is just all real numbers. Let me write that down. Right? Or negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay. You guys writing this down? Yeah. Should all be writing this down. Yeah, you're good? Okay. And this is no word problem, right? This is no context. Because I'll tell you this, a word problem, there might be a spring that you pull down. In physics, you've probably done this already. You release it, it goes up and down, up and down, up and down, but eventually it stops. Okay? So it's not infinity, right? But if there's no context, then this is what we state as a domain. So this is a good multiple choice, right? It'll say, which of the following functions has this domain? That might give you 4 pictures. And then you should just know a sinusoidal is, it just goes on forever technically. Range, it's different, very different. So it goes either from the Y min, right, less than or equal to Y, and then less than or equal to Y max. Okay? Or you can do interval, where it's just Y min. It always has to be the lowest number first and the highest number second. Square brackets. Make sure you put down square brackets on your study sheet. Regardless if there's a word problem or not, the sinusoidal function always stays between those two. It doesn't deviate from that. So you choose which method, which format you want to use the most. Okay, let's use this now. I would say study sheet. Okay? And I know some of you are already saying, my study sheet is packed. I know. So that's going to be a task, right? That's part of the process of eliminating some of the things that you shouldn't have on there. Let's go over to page 4. And here it is. I give you an equation. I need you to be able to answer the following. Watch for double brackets. Okay, sometimes when you type this in, you get a double bracket. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean. Well, how do you find the amplitude? The amplitude is straight from the equation. That's just that value right there. It's 5 units. We don't have units, so we'll just tack on 5 units. The equation of the midline. Guess what? Midline is right there. That's 2 units. Okay. The min, how do you find the min? You go D minus A. Stop for a bit. Let's go back up here. I know you don't see sinusoidals all the time. So this is A, this is B, this is C, and D. All of them are present here. Okay. So to find the minimum, we just take D, whatever D is, sine and all, and we subtract A from it, which is 5. So that ends up being -3. That's the lowest this sinusoidal will ever go. Max, we go D plus A. So it's 2 plus 5. The highest we ever go is 7. Okay. Period. You find it by going 2 pi divided by B. So we go 2 pi, and B is, and you're wondering why does it have it in 4 decimals? I tend to put 4 decimals in because it makes the period be more accurate. Okay, so quit this, go to your calculator, and just make sure you know how to do this. It is 2 pi like this, 2 second, and then there's the hat button here. I know we've used pi before, but some of you might have forgotten. So 2 pi divided by whatever B is, 0.6283. And you get almost, like we round that to 10. Quite often you get a nice round okay, number. So this would just be 10 units. Okay, this is, if you're kind of having a hard time staying awake, period, I want you to remember this about it. If you envision a sinusoidal, right, just envision it, from the peak to another peak, that's a full cycle, by the way, this will be 10 units long. Okay, that's what you just found. This thing will repeat itself every 10. This will repeat itself. 10, 10, 10, 10. The same can be said if you want to just focus on the lows, the minimum. From the minimum here, you go up to the top and back to the min. This is also 10. Okay, so that's what we're finding when we're finding the period. It's how wide is this curve. The bigger the period, right, the bigger this number, the wider the peaks are going to become, right? If it's smaller, it's going to shrink. So something to keep in mind. Domain, let's just go with the easy one. This one is less time consuming. Range, what would you say here? -3 to 7. That's it. I just like the interval more. Let's try to graph this on our calculator. Let's punch this in. It's time to use the calculator to our advantage here. As soon as you get an equation, guys, go y equals, clear everything, turn off plot 1, should not be on, and let's type this in. So 5, and then sine. Watch this, the double bracket is what I'm talking about here. As soon as you press sine, it already does the bracket, so don't be typing another bracket in. Like that, plus 1.75, close bracket, plus 2. Okay? Hit graph. Let's see what happens. Maybe you won't even see it. I'm not seeing it. Why don't we all do the zoom standard thing? Go back to a standard window. So zoom 6. Right? Zoom standard. In this case, it works just nicely. And we know what should my y min and y max be, or at least include these two values, right? And this is where I need you to pay attention. The period is something usually, quite often, the province wants you to include 2 cycles. So right now I see a min and a min, so I see a cycle here, and I see maybe almost 2 cycles here, right? I see 1 here and 1 there. So you might have to expand your x max a little bit. So let's go 20 for the x max. Right? So now you see, right, peak to peak, that's 1, and from peak to peak, that's another 1. So you've got for sure 2, almost 3, right? So that's what that's what I want you to see, like more than just 1 repetition, just to be careful. Okay, so this is what we see in your graphs, and obviously if you have it set to degrees, you're not going to see what we're just seeing. So let's use this information to graph. Okay, or you know what? I'm going to take a little break here. You're going to practice this just real quick here. Fast forward. I want you to go to 7 and fill in that table based on your equation. And if you already have this on your study sheet, great. So I want you to fill in this table, the max, the min, midline, amplitude, period, domain, range, based on that equation there, before I continue. Okay? So go to page 7, fill that in. Shouldn't take you very long. Okay. If you didn't do 7, this is where you do 7. If you are done 7, please try 8. Figure out all the characteristics. So imagine that table that I just gave you is over here. And just do the same thing again for 8. And then we're going to graph it. That's going to be the hardest part. And you might think, how about this? The one on page 8, the one I asked you to do, we'll graph this one. And the reason why I won't do the one on page 5, listen carefully here, page 5 has the QR code here. which walks you through that example. So maybe I'll just be like, if you need another one, that's where you go and get this example right here. So I will go to page 4 here. Oh, why did I say page 5? Sorry. Page 4. I'll tell you this. Graph on page 8. Okay, so we're going to go to page 8 and graph an example so that we know how to do it. Okay, you need to be careful though. What do you think? Where are we going ultimately? It's always going to be word problems, right? Like most likely word problems. So I'm going to get you ready with this, just a general sinusoidal, and then later we're going to stick to word problems. And that is why, listen carefully to this part, that is why my graphs tend to, this is the y-axis, and I kind of want you to just focus on this. Even though you could focus on the other quadrants here, I tend to focus on this area right here in the positive x values. Okay, so that's just to kind of already get you ready for that. So for 8, and most of you have this filled in, but I want to make sure you have this right. And I don't have the key in front of me, so you're going to have to really help me. Characteristics, so the maximum, if we follow the other method, would be negative 15. So you grab D and you add A to it. Okay, and you get positive 10. For the min, you take D as well. So it's always back to the midline. And we subtract 25 to get to the bottom, right? This is what, negative 40? Okay? And then the midline, in this case, I can just go grab this number and just say it's negative 15. Okay? Amplitude, same thing. I can just get it from my equation. I just need you to know that that is the amplitude, okay? 25. What does it ask for next? Period, okay? If it's asking you for that, you go 2 pi divided by b, so b is right there. 31416. I even gave you 5 decimals there. And let me just do this real quick. Divided by 0.31416, 20 basically, right? It's 19.999, rounded to 2 decimals would be 20. And domain and range, let's make sure we know how to do that. So domain would just be all real numbers, and the range would be from negative 40 to positive 10 if you want to use interval. If you want to use interval for domain, just make sure you know that it's that. Okay. Time to graph. So I try different ways to show students. I like you to find your own way, whatever works for you. I'm going to say this, close enough is good enough. Like if the points are kind of where they're supposed to go, the province is okay with it. So make sure you label your axes as always. Make sure you have a scale of some sort. Okay. Let's do the y. That one is very easy. What do we need to accommodate? We need to accommodate. There's a lot of stuff going on my screen here. Hold on one second. There. We need to accommodate negative 40 and positive 10 along the y, correct? So let's make that happen. This would be negative 10, 20, 30, 40. So this works for me. Okay, and then so this is then 10 and 20. So I'm using that scale. I'm using consistent spacing, and I give it numbers. Okay, so let's just leave it there for now. Grab your calculator, enter this equation into your y1. I missed one, right? I missed the 31416, so I have to retype this. Okay. Graph it, please. So I'm going to assume I'm on my standard window here, my standard zoom. It's not very good. Okay. I need to make something happen here. Please make sure your window works. So you want to make sure you know that the highest point that I get on my y is 10. I'm going to go 15 on my y max. and y min is supposed to be negative 40, I'm going to go negative 45, something like that. So I'm going to hit graph there. Okay, so you're for sure seeing the top and the max and the min. Now, here's where you need to pay attention. The x, I'm going to ignore this part. I'm going to focus more on this side of the x-axis, of the y-axis, sorry. So watch what you do. You go to Window, X max. I'm going to take whatever my period is and multiply it by 2 or 3, because I want to have 2 or 3 cycles on my screen. So for my X max, I'm going to go 3 times 20, let's say. So for me, it's 60. And I'm actually seeing right from here to here is one cycle, from here to here is another cycle. If you can't see it, just keep extending your X max until you see 3 peaks in this case. That gives me 2 cycles, okay guys? All right, so here's the kicker. This is my method that I've used last semester. You ready? I go to y equals. And I type in my max, like the 10, into y2. It doesn't really matter which one goes where. My min, I go negative 40. And my midline is negative 15. So I enter those 3 into my y2, y3, y4. And then hit graph. See, you see those 3 lines. Those are going to be very important for us. We're going to jump between those 3 lines every time. You got that part? Can you all see the 3 lines? Okay. And then I start somewhere close to my y-axis. It doesn't matter where. So I'm going to pick this max here. So I'm going to go second trace what? Intersect. The way I do it right now, I'm going to go intersect. And I'm going to scroll over to that point. So I'm going to find the intersection between the blue and the, mine is red at the top, so I'm going to go enter, enter, enter. And I get 3.19, write that down on the margins here, 3.19, 10. Right here on the margin. You don't need to show me keystrokes on that one. You just have to have them somewhere. Then you find the mid one right here. Second, trace, intersect, go sideways along the blue line. What is the intersection now between which 2 lines? Blue and, I don't know what color that is, pink? Can I say pink? Enter, watch this, it jumped to the red. You got to go arrow up until you get to the pink line. See that? If I go arrow up, it keeps cycling through all the equations. So I pick the blue line, and then you keep going and pick the pink, and then hit enter, enter, enter. There's that intersection. 8.19, negative 15. That's my second point. Then I go to the low. So I went from the max, the mid, go to the low one. Second trace 5. And it's now between the blue and the black one, right? So you hit enter on the blue, cycle through until you get to the black line. Everything turns black, right? Enter, enter, until it says intersection. There it is, 13.18, negative 40. And you do this another 2 times for 1 cycle. Second trace 5. Go back to that midline. Enter. Keep cycling through to the pink. Enter, enter. And then it's 18.17, negative 15. One more time. Enter, enter. There I just don't even need to do the arrow up or down. It's 23.1610. How many points did I find from one max to another max? How many do I have on the side here? 5. That is did you watch me do the regression, right, on the video? How many points did I need? 5 consecutive. Okay, so I'm just gonna say for now, let's use these 5. Let's plot these 5 here. So watch what I need here. I need to make sure I go up to 23-ish to have one cycle in here, and then another 23. So how about we go, let's see here, 5, 10, 15, 20. So this is 5, 10, 15, 20, and then let's keep going. 25, 30, 35, 40. And there will be a little bit of space that I have to hopefully fit in another cycle. So 3.19, this is 3, and I'm all on the max here, right? You know what helps big time is the province is okay with this, by the way. You go to the max, and you just go dashed lines. Then you know that's gonna be your top. The low is -40. That's gonna be down here. That's gonna be the low. Oops. And then your mid. I always also like to have my midline, which is -15. It's right there. Okay, so I'm going to jump between that and these 3 lines all the time. So right there, 319. 819 is right about there at the mid. 13.18 is right there. Mowing the lawn, right? It's always when you sit outside, want to enjoy the backyard, right? Your neighbor starts mowing their lawn. 23 something here. So watch this. I just go from the top and then slowly connect them. Please don't have zigzags. They want you to have a bit of a curve. And then go up to the max. And that would be one cycle. So here's where I was just talking to Zaithea there. Please don't hit the y-axis unless you know where it is exactly. So I just go arrow like this, arrowhead there. Then you don't need to go find it. Okay. Question. Pop quiz, you ready? How many units do you think from here to here? 20-ish, I have to say. It is a bit of a guess. And the reason being is because I didn't include all decimals for B. That's why you're going to be a little bit off. But do you notice, where did we start? Look at where my pencil is. We started at 319, right? This one right here. You don't need to label on the exam. And where do we end up over here? What's the coordinate for this one? 2316. Okay. So we have 20 units from X to X, right? X max to X max. So here's the worth highlighting, the 20 up here, the period, which is 20. I'm highlighting it here. I'm actually going to highlight the whole thing. It's 20 from max to max. It would also be 20 from min to min, consecutive, okay? Question. What would the, copy this down first, it's important. Is there like a tornado or something? They're doing the diamond? Oh, they're just cleaning it. It just looked like there was a tornado, mini tornado. Question. Where is my next max going to be located approximately? 2316 plus 20? What would that be? 4316-ish? So 43 will be right about there. So just add and then just say this would be 4316 or so 10. So that's my max. You know it's going to be there at one point again. Okay? You're with me? So this one, 20 over. What about the min here? This is what? The min here is 1318, negative 40. Where do you think it's going to be down the road here? Just add another 20 to that. What is that? 2318? No, sorry. 3318. I know my math. Okay? 3318 is right about there. Okay? So you can use the property, right? Once you have it, let me see here. I'm going to also do the highlighter down here. It's also 20 units. Right? I used my period to find that point there. And yes, you may do this. Okay? You may do what I'm about to do here. After the 5, you're authorized to just estimate, because you will use the 20 here, you will also use the 20 there, and then just continue. But I need you to be able to find 5 consecutive points. Okay, that is a skill I need you to have. And if you find a different way and you're like, Mr. Dirksen, is this fine? Just check with me. I'm most likely going to agree with you. Okay? I'm not going to say you have to do it my way. And one thing's still missing here. Unfortunately, like you need to have the label, like your actual equation labeled to get this right. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna ask you let's see if we can do it in like 12 minutes. Let's go to page 7, because you already have that information. Go to page 7. I want you to graph 2 cycles on page 7. Okay, and see how that goes. You're saying I didn't graph it, right? Okay. Go to page 7 and try that one. Actually, I'm going to change my plan here. I'm going to ask you to go to 11, because that one I have scanned, the key I have scanned. So go to 11. And let's do 11B. 11B, because then your values, you're going to have to adjust your scale a little bit on your screen. So 11B, let's try that one, see how that one goes. 2 cycles, please. Do all the characteristics here. So what are the characteristics? Figure out the max, figure out the min, figure out your amplitude, your period. Domain and range, you don't have to. Okay, you don't have to do that one. In this case, I just want you to graph it. Okay, so go for it. Yeah, if you have to, yeah. I know I talked about some of this on the video, but I did change it up a little bit, so just follow along anyways, okay? The characteristics from a graph, how would you handle that? Okay, so the period, you can't just go grab a number and figure it out. You can't use 2 pi divided by b, because you don't know what b is, okay? So there's 3, notice the or. You can either, like if you have you should write this down, so you can either subtract from here to here. So let's say this is 320 and this is 720. What's the period? 7 minus 3. You subtract the x values. How many units is it from max to max? It would be 4, correct? In this case, your period is 4. You could also focus in on we'll make them a little closer together. Right? So this is not a good looking sinusoidal, by the way. There you go, that's more like it. So if you go from min to min, right, so from here to here, let's say this is negative 1.25, negative 50, and this is 1.25, negative 50. What is the period there? Period would be what? It says x2 min minus x1 min. So you grab 1.25 minus negative 1.25. That is 1.25 plus 1.25. So the period is 2.5 in this case. I shouldn't have used decimals maybe, but there are a lot of decimals, so why not? So you can either do it this way, find the two max, subtract them, or find two minimums and always subtract the x values, by the way. That's what the period is always concerned with. And your last one. This is one that I have seen this. What if I only gave you this? Like just a partial picture of the sinusoidal. And let's say this is 515 and this is 7, 0, let's say. What would be the period there? Is this a full cycle right now? No, it's half a cycle. So in this case, right, half a cycle. Can you see that? So the period in this case would be 2 times whatever you get when you subtract the x values. So it'd be 2 times 2, so the period is 4. Okay? And what happens here is you almost have to imagine that this thing goes back up here, and what would be the coordinate over this on this one? It would be 4 plus 5, right? It would take 4 units to get here, would be 9. So that's when you use that version there. Quite frankly, a lot of you are not even going to use the formulas. You're just going to look, and you're just going to be like, oh, it's 10, right? The period is 10. Like, it's obvious. You're just going to look at the graph. But if you don't, then there are the equations. Amplitude. You either go y max minus the midline. Okay, because remember, amplitude is what? It's if this is your midline, this is what we're talking about. We want to know this. So you can go y max. Okay, this is y max. And this is the mid. So these are numbers. So you just subtract them. Or you can go y min minus midline. Okay? Or this is the most popular one. I will ask you to box this in or highlight it. If you have the max and you have the min, you subtract. Make sure you understand that it's subtracting, and then you divide it by 2. Some students even need the brackets. Okay, I need to first subtract, then divide by 2. So 3 ways to get your midline, or amplitude, I should say. Equation of midline. Here it is. This one is important as well. What's the difference here? You add. Over here, you subtract when it's the amplitude. So make sure you have that there. That's it. Those are the formulas you need to know if it's coming from the graph. Okay, if you're trying to get it from the graph. So here it is. I believe I did this already with you. I'm not sure on the video, but here it is. If it's just asking for the min, it's just any of these here, the negative 3. Okay, negative 3. The max, it is 7. I'm going to highlight negative 3 here, and also negative 3 on the coordinates there. For the max, we're going to go 7, right? All of these 7s are max in terms of the y. Okay, just as easy as that. Amplitude. Okay, for amplitude, what should I use here right now as it is? Use this one. Y max, Y min divided by 2. Okay, so watch this. 7 minus negative 3. Okay, divided by 2. So that's 7 plus 3 divided by 2. That's 10 divided by 2, which is 5. Okay, this is the amplitude. So it's telling you that from the middle to the top, it's going to be 5 units. From the middle to the bottom, it's going to be 5 units. Follow along now. Midline, equation of the midline. The midline is going to be adding those two. You add those two. And you divide it by 2. So that what's negative 3 plus 7 is 4. Divided by 2 is 2. Let's see if this makes sense. You go to your graph, and this is the midline, right? So 2 is right there. Does it make sense to have a line right there that is considered the midline? It should definitely look like it's cutting this thing in half. And how many units is it from here to the top? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which we already knew anyways. It is 5, right? Going from the middle to the top. So there's very many ways to verify this. What's the period here? I'm going to go x max 2 minus x max 1. And this is a little intimidating, but it shouldn't be. I'm going to go x max 2 is 2 minus x max. Should you use negative? I would stay away from it. I would call this x max 1, x max 2. Okay, so I'm going to go 10 minus 2. That's 8 units. Let's label our color, haven't I used yet, green. The period is 8. So from here to here, right, we've got 8 horizontally. And I'm going to use a red pen for amplitude, right? There's the 5 there. There's the 5 there, right? It's always 5 to either top or bottom, okay? So, hold on. I'm going to just say pages 6 to 12. There's some graphing. There's some deriving from a graph, okay? So pages 6 to 12, I will post all of those for you. Make sure you try this. Make sure you try this. There are only 2 weekends left, guys. Remember that. Okay. So you want to stay on top of this because you're going to need to know how to do this.